Welcome to Your Money, Your Life, our personal finance podcast focused on improving your life through financial wellness, brought to you by Black Enterprise Digital. I'm your host, Alfred Edmond Jr. On every episode of Your Money, Your Life, we address the topics and issues you deal with every day as you strive to make the most of your money and the best of your life. By discussions and insights with the top experts on everything from decoding your financial behavior and achieving financial freedom to conquering debt and creating a legacy of multi-generational wealth. On this edition of Your Money, Your Life, we'll address the process of hiring a financial pro to help you with your goals of achieving financial wellness. We're going to reveal some of the key questions to ask before working with a financial pro. So once again, we have a great expert to have this insightful conversation. Tiffany Aliche, the one and only Budgetnista, with thousands of people all across the country, probably hundreds of thousands by now. 600,000. Hey, see, they know her as the creator of the Live Richer Challenge. Welcome to the show, Tiffany. Thanks for being here. Now, before we get started on today's topic, what's the latest happenings with the Live Richer Challenge and what's going on with the Budgetnista mission?
We are just growing by leaps and bounds. We are about 600,000 folks strong. The next Live Richer Challenge will be the home buying edition. It will launch in January. It'll be our 5th challenge, and we're just rocking and rolling.
Wow, I'm always amazed. So you've done net worth, you've done credit edition.
Savings edition, we did the fundamentals. So every year we really try to figure out what is it that people are really needing and then produce it for them.
Excellent, excellent. And you're a teacher by heart and by trade,
yes.
So this is really excellent.
Yeah, I was a teacher for over 10 years. I have my master's in education, and so my father was a CFO, and so that's where kind of the money piece came in, and so I blended the two and started the Budgetnista.
So one of the most important steps that people will take as they move down the road of really getting control of their finances is eventually thinking about hiring a financial advisor or working with a financial professional. Mm-hmm. But there are some things that you really need to kind of think about before you go to look for that person and obviously eventually hire that person. Yes. What are some of the key questions that you think our listeners need to consider and explore as they're preparing to make that step?
Well, you want to ask your financial advisor first, are they a fiduciary? And so that is by law someone who must put your interest before their own. Because you want to make sure that they're investing in a way that's going to make you money, even if it means they're not going to make as much money.
Now, how do you confirm something like that?
You ask, and they have to show you. And so, so not everyone, well, these days, almost everyone is a fiduciary because it was the law, but with the political times we live in now, there's been some pushback to make that not so anymore.
One of the things that's important to understand is that unlike becoming, say, a medical doctor, there's certain things where you have to get a specific certification. Mm-hmm. The truth is, and which is why it can be very, you have to be careful, mm-hmm. is anybody can wake up tomorrow and say, I'm a financial advisor.
Yeah, well,
and I mean, they can't technically,
yes.
But if you're not someone who asks these kinds of questions, yes. and actually gets documentation, yes. A lot of times people have bad experiences because they're not necessarily doing that kind of due diligence.
Exactly. So there are for example, there's this company called XY Planning that they have a collection of financial advisors, and it's specifically for millennials looking for financial advisors. So they'll do some vetting for you. So you can look for organizations like that have done some pre-vetting, or you can reach out to family and friends and people that you trust and say, who's your financial advisor, and start the search that way. That's what I did, mm-hmm. because that helps significantly, someone that someone else is happy with.
Right.
So when you meet your financial advisor or you're interviewing, I just interviewed a few. I decided to let go of my old financial advisor. He's not quite as effective as he used to be. Some questions you want to ask aside from are you a fiduciary is how do you get paid? So there are typically two ways, right? So there's fee-based, and there's someone that will get paid based upon how much of your assets they've invested for you.
So like a percentage of a portfolio, yes. or a percentage of activity.
Exactly. So ideally, when I first started out, I couldn't afford to pay someone, say, $1,000 a year to help me with my investment. So instead, I went with someone who took a percentage of my portfolio. And the reason why ideally it's really great if you can to pay someone out front is because they don't get paid to put your money in a particular vehicle. So if I'm paying you $1,000, you've got your money already. So putting it in a particular vehicle, there's not this, you're human, there's not this kind of human part of you that wants to put it in something that's going to make you more money.
So if I understand you, I mean, if you're just paying a fee, a flat fee, like you said, you're paid, but if you're getting paid based on me putting you in certain vehicles, there can be a conflict of interest.
Yes.
If I know I can make more money putting you in this vehicle than that vehicle.
Even if they're a fiduciary and they're not supposed to do that, people are still human.
Yes,
you know?
yes.
And so but I couldn't afford that at first, and a lot of people can't afford to pay a flat sum fee. So if you're someone who's going to go with someone who's going to make an income off of how they've invested your money and where they've invested your money, you want to make sure what percentage of that money are they going to be taking. So if you are doing, so there's robo-advising. So these are these financial advisors that are really online. You don't really see them. You kind of take a test and they tell you where to put your money. You should not be paying more than 0.5% for something, that kind of service. And if you are meeting with someone, like a real live person, and they're helping you, you should not be paying more than 1%. So you see some people, they'll say, oh, because 2% doesn't sound like much until you start to do the math. And so over a year, it might be tens of thousands of dollars, 2% of your total portfolio. And that might be all of the money that you earn. So you can literally find yourself paying your financial advisor and not making any money.
So really understanding the fee structure is an important consideration.
It's critical.
Let me say something, I'll ask you something, because I have my own personal opinions about this. This whole question of affordability, and so many people wait and often wait indefinitely or wait too long to even get financial expertise because they've convinced themselves they can't afford it. And what got me over this hump was the first time I used a financial pro and how much money I saved and in some ways made that was far beyond the fee I thought I couldn't afford. So how important is to really look at affordability, not just based on cost, but what the financial result would be?
It depends, because here's the thing. If your financial advisor is charging a high fee, you know, the problem is you can actually lose the money that you've earned. So you want to be very, very mindful. So no matter how amazing they are, if your financial advisor is charging you 2%, 3%, you know, which is crazy, then the money that you made over time, you're not going to see any of that money. You're basically putting it in a savings account, you know. So it's really critical that you find a financial advisor that, one, is a fiduciary, two, that you understand the fees, three, how often are you going to meet? You know, are you going to meet quarterly, which I suggest, so you can understand what's happening? What is their teaching style? So I'm someone, don't just put my money somewhere, tell me where and why my money is being put there. So these are questions that yourself personally, you know, you should understand why your money is being invested in a certain particular space and place. And so these are questions that you really want to ask, and you want to do your homework. It's worth it.
We're going to take a pause for the cause and give our listeners a chance to digest a bit. Just some great information. I hope you guys are listening and taking notes, because this really could be your playbook for preparing for meeting and interviewing candidates that can help you manage your money. Welcome back to Your Money, Your Life. I'm your host, Alfred Edmond Jr. with Tiffany, the Budgetnista, Aliche. So Tiffany, what are some other things that people should ask about their own personal situation? For example, what are questions that ask to kind of get clear about whether you really are ready for that level of relationship with a potential financial advisor?
Well, one, what is your money doing? Do you know? Do you have a budget? Because they're going to ask you that. Your financial advisor is also going to ask you to get all of your financial paperwork together. So they're going to ask you, do you have any retirement accounts anywhere? Do you know where those papers are? You know, how much savings do you have? What are your bills like? So collecting those things ahead of time are going to be critical, not just for you, but to make sure that your relationship with your financial advisor is effective. And being open. Are you someone who is going to be open about sharing where your finances are? So when I switched from working as a teacher to working for myself, my financial advisor had to know, because now instead of my retirement account being a normal 401k, I could do a SEP, you know, IRA, which is for self-employed people. And then when I went from having an LLC to an S Corp, now an LLC meant that I owned my company. I was an entrepreneur, and then when I became an S Corp, I work for my company. So I no longer could put my money into a SEP because I'm no longer self-employed. Right. I'm an employee of the Budgetnista now. I didn't know that. And so we were putting money, and then my accountant happened to notice, it's like, Tiffany, we switched you to an S Corp. Why are you still putting your retirement money in this kind of account? I had not mentioned that to my advisor. So You want to make sure that you're open and there's someone who is going to be speaking to you constantly about your life and how it's changing.
You make an important point about being open, and one of my other friends in the financial services industry, probably I'm the only one that says this, talks about your confidence in being able to be financially naked.
Yes.
And he likened it to when you're choosing your doctor,
Yes.
your doctor is going to see everything, know everything, because that's the only way they can help you take care of yourself, and that you have to. So there's a certain amount of personal trust and comfort level, in addition to the professional credentials, that you need to have with whoever you're going to work with.
Yeah, you have. If you don't have the right vibe with them, it's not the person for you.
You shouldn't even force it, no matter how good they are on paper, no matter how wonderful they are.
No, because you're not going to tell them things. You know, you might have made a mistake, and you're like, you know what, I'm not going to say. But then how does that serve you? So you're really wanting to make sure, aside from the professional aspect, this is someone that you really vibe with, that you trust, and you feel like they're looking out for your best interests.
I think another point that you raised with regard to the organization you need to be prepared to do in order to, again, engage in this relationship, the paperwork, knowing what your budget is, it underscores an important point, which is you still have the ultimate responsibility for the direction of this. This is not a hands off to somebody, close your eyes and hope it goes well.
Yeah. And I've done that.
Oh.
And so I've literally, for the last 3 or 4 years, I've been like running through financial advisors because I'm like, I'm too busy running my business. I don't want to have to think about it. But it's not a set it and forget it. So it wasn't until I started to educate myself on, okay, well, how do I really want my money to grow? You know, what are my real long-term goals? And so once I really started to educate myself on that, then I could speak intelligently to my financial advisor about what I wanted. And then they understood that I was also invested. You know, so when someone knows that you're invested, they put the effort forth as well, because no one can put more effort into your life than you can.
And one of the other benefits of being really conscious and engaged, and I've talked to, again, you and I both work with a lot of people, both whether they're, in your case, they're clients, they're people who are the richer beneficiaries. In my case, as a journalist, I talk to a lot of people, and one of the biggest fears is being taken advantage of. You know, I'm an American Greed junkie. I can binge watch that show. And I always tell people the best way to protect yourself is to be engaged, to not just, you know, give it off and hope that is right. So talk to me about, you know, you talk about meeting quarterly, the kinds of paperwork you should see, the kinds of reports you should see, so that you can feel confident that this is a person who not only got your trust in the beginning, but maintains that trust along, because you are informed and aware of what's going on. So
one of the things I do is I always bring a notebook and a pen, so they know I'm taking notes on what you're saying, so we're both clear. They're not the only person I have my accountant who's also looking. So, and they know that. So there's
checks and balances.
Exactly. So my accountant is looking, they're looking, so they also know, like, okay, Tiffany also has someone watching her back. So because I have a company, I have a CFO. So now the three of them, when I go meet with my accountant or I meet with my financial advisor, like, I will make sure that everyone's available via phone and put them on speaker and say, like, you know, Carlos, what was that thing that you said again? So it's very clear that and people who are all beholden to me, they're not all from the same firm, they're not connected in any way. I am the connecting factor, so everyone is loyal to me, you know, in that relationship. So making sure that you're not putting all of your trust into just one person, because they might be awesome, but they might not, and you want someone on your team that's like, hey, this doesn't seem right.
And once you have that team, and I think I love the fact that you go into this idea, it's about a team of people.
Yes.
Your financial advisor, we might call it like the quarterback.
Yes.
You're the coach. You own the team,
Yes.
so they all work for you. But you have an accountant, you have a CFO, you may have an insurance pro, but all of those people need to be part of your team, but separate from each other.
Yes. It's like when you buy a house. You know, your realtor is always going to tell you, oh, I've got a lender for you, or I've got an inspection person for you. I bet you do, because you want to sell this house. And they're all beholden to you. My father would say, he who pays the piper determines the tune.
Yes, yes.
Right? For the young ones, right? Whoever paid the DJ, they get to decide what you're going to play, right?
Right.
And so, like, no, I want to be the piper. I want to make sure that you are beholden to me. So I pay Carlos, I pay Helen, I pay Rachel. These are the names of my actual CFO, financial advisor, and accountant. And so they're always looking out for my best interest. It was Carlos that noticed that I was still putting money in a SEP, you know, because I forgot to tell my financial advisor that I was no longer self-employed. Because how would he know that I switched? It was Carlos that did the paperwork for me. And sometimes even I have a lawyer because I have a business, I'll bring him in to the mix if necessary. Like, okay, Ari, we've made these changes in the business. How does that affect my financials? And so Ari knows Carlos, so they speak. So all of your major team players who are part of your finances, and my husband too. We meet with our financial advisor, Helen, actually tomorrow, and it's during lunch at noon, and we're gonna do a video because she lives in Atlanta, so we'll do a video chat, and he has to be there. He is a major team player.
Excellent.
We can't make choices, and I can't make huge choices, and he's not a part of that.
And he's not informed. Both of you need to be informed.
Yes,
your whole team needs to be informed.
I call it the money team. It's not just Floyd Mayweather. We all need a money team.
Right. This is great. Thank you, Tiffany, for being on the show.
Thank you.
And for all the great things you're doing with the Live Richer Challenge. I've been a friend and follower of yours for a long, long time, probably since you were in kindergarten because you're so young. You can learn more about Tiffany Aliche at thebudgetnista.com. And be sure to check out the Live Richer Challenge at livericherchallenge.com. Check out the podcast channel at blackenterprise.com to find Your Money, Your Life and other podcasts from Black Enterprise editors, writers, and experts. Be sure to subscribe to Your Money, Your Life on iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, Stitcher, or any other podcast directory. And if you like what you hear, definitely leave a 5-star review. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. with Your Money, Your Life for blackenterprise.com. Thanks for listening. Be ready for the next edition of Your Money, Your Life.